before I play more Wrath tonight, I wanted to look at this. I wanted to look at the Cataclysm survey that was sent out, because man, do I have some opinions. World of Warcraft will be bringing back Wrath of the Lich King in 2022. After Wrath of the Lich King comes out, what would you like to see World of Warcraft Classic Team do next? This is the question that I have been waiting for. I think Cataclysm was, is, and always will be a mistake. They ruined so many leveling zones. They ruined so many quest lines just for a fucking event with a big dragon. I understand the point in building stakes by destroying your world. I understand that. And I think they could do it in some fucking way. I don't know if that's doing Cataclysm, but undoing the destruction. Because having played retail before Classic, I am sick of seeing all the destruction that Deathwing did that never got fixed. Like, after Cataclysm, they started rebuilding the capital cities, and there is a section of Stormwind that has been under construction for like 12 years in real life. I don't like Cataclysm. I don't think it was a good game. Anyway, what I'm saying is I think the game should either stay as Wrath of the Lich King, they should reset back down to Classic and loop it, or they build new content in the same style, feel, and mindset of Classic without Dungeon Finder, Raid Finder, or Transmog. Those are the big no-nos for me. And I think Wrath of the Lich King kind of was like the beginning of this cycle of problems, right? There's a page in your spellbook. Yeah, glyphs. Okay, so like the glyphs page, like that's new to Wrath, and I think glyphs is like the start of that really like pesky, like yucky thing that like went through retail, where every expansion had like this goofy ass new thing that like everyone had to engage with. I don't think every expansion had it necessarily, but it's gotten a lot more problematic as the game's gone on, right? Like the big thing for Shadowlands was the Covenants, right? And the Covenants were just fucking miserable. And
well, I don't have an opinion. I can't believe I paid for Shadow Legends, whatever.
Shadow Legends? You played for Raid Shadow Legends?
Yeah, no, you know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you're saying. I don't know.
Pay your rent on time.
I don't have rent to pay.
You're not happy? Fine, you can fucking leave.
Jesus. You're a terrible landlord.
Yeah.
You're a monster.
Well, she gave me like 2 seconds to respond for like a rat problem. Okay, that's not my problem.
Maybe she got scared of the rats.
Well, she should have not been a slob and given me more than 2 seconds. You know what? Her personality type is gamer. Okay.
So, what about gamers and rats are you talking about? No, but I think if they went the route of Classic Plus, right, and they made new content for Classic, but in the vein of Classic, not in retail, they would need to not do anything like this. They would need to completely avoid anything that feels like a retail expansion feature, because that's what they're called, expansion features. If they put an expansion feature in a Classic expansion, I'd probably completely disengage from the game. Like, I hate expansion features. Like, what is it that they're doing for Dragonflight? They're doing flying. That's their expansion feature. You know why? Because they finally figured out that everyone fucking hates expansion features. Like, the Covenants are cool from a storytelling perspective and an RPG perspective, but when your power is directly tied to something that you cannot change, and it is a permanent decision, which, you know, later they were like, it's semi-permanent, we're gonna pull the ripcord, it's fucking stupid. Your power needs to be something you can directly control, and even if you have to raid every week for a piece of gear, you're still directly controlling that because you're still working on something, you know? You're always going up. There's no sideways progression that's locked out by timers. I don't know. Like, and I know part of that's because so many of like the WoW community is like metagame like goblins, but the fact of it is, if you give someone something to metagame, they're gonna metagame it. So don't give them something like that. Either make it purely cosmetic or purely story, and like leave the power out of the covenants. That was the biggest problem with covenants, that there was power tied to them, like player power. Like, I don't know, it was a problem. That's what I think. Either Classic Plus or Reset. No Cataclysm Classic. The expansion after the original Wrath of the Lich King was Cataclysm. Would like to get your feedback on the features and systems introduced in the Cataclysm expansion. If you're familiar with WoW and Cataclysm, please think about the expansion as it was when originally released and separate it from the systems and features that you may be familiar with in modern WoW Shadowlands or the current classic releases. Okay, so like think strictly. Okay. The original 2010 release of World of Warcraft Cataclysm. So this was the first expansion I ever knew about WoW. This was like the first, this was the first smell that I like kind of understood what WoW was. I knew what it was, like I knew it existed beforehand because of my cousin, but I didn't directly interact with it before that. And I know about it from like an outsider looking in kind of position. Like I never directly interacted with it, but I know of it. So features and descriptions, dungeons, new dungeons are always good. There's no way around that. New playable races, also arguably really good. I think the Goblin starting quest was really fucking stupid, and I think it could have been done better. The Worgans generally had a way cooler starting quest because their lore was just more engaging than the Goblins. New raids are always good, but Blackwing Descent's okay. Bastion of Twilight is okay. Throne of the Four Winds is actually really cool if you like, reading. Firelands also is one of the coolest raids in WoW history, but Dragon Soul was fucking AIDS. I hated Dragon Soul. Even farming Dragon Soul now sucks. Like, you're fucking 3,000% like over leveled. It still sucks to farm Dragon Soul if you want to farm for the mount. Dragon Soul is an unfun raid, and it was the beginning of the design of the game that was like built to directly combat like add-ons that tell you what to do in boss fights. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was the beginning of really stupid fucking boss design because they had to grapple with the fact people were using third-party add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think boss design like that is just unfriendly to normal players. Like you, like if you didn't have me and you're like, oh, I want to play WoW, and you eventually got into raiding, right? You would be made fun of and picked on for not having deadly boss mods and wiping.
I don't know what any of that means. So
Exactly. You'd get picked on. It's just not good design, I think, to make an add-on necessary to your game. I think a better play would be to ban things that tell you what the bosses do. I know that's not going to happen, but like that's not going to happen like immediately, but that is why Dragon Soul is not good in my opinion. It is the beginning of that stupid fucking design. New zones. Hyjal, Vashir, Deepholm, Uldum, Twilight Highlands, Tolbarad, and Molten Front. Now, the new zones were cool, but the new zones came with a double-edged sword. So they made flying possible in the old world, and they added like the destruction of old zones. Now, if you could have these zones side by side with the old zones, and arguably make it so flying isn't possible in them, which would take big redesigns on some of these, because they were designed with flying in mind. Because I have a retard opinion. I think flying in the old world is directly destructive to the feel of like the grandiose feel of like going to a new raid or a dungeon. Instead of like walking there as a group or even like warping there with like warlocks and stones, like it feels like way less of like an event when you're going to a raid or a dungeon with your group. I think one of the best feelings in classic WoW was being in a giant group of 40 people all on the same flight path going to the same like raid. I think that grandiose feeling of like being in a war party is something really important to the fantasy of classic WoW, and I think flight in the old world directly destroyed it. Those new zones. Account-wide mounts and pets. I do not like this. I think it makes ulting more encouraged, and I don't like ulting. I know I'm like very, very independent on that thought. I know a lot of people really like ulting. I think ulting is the most boring fucking window licking shit ever. I think you should have one main character,
like...
making an ult character and grinding on it.
That's just too much effort. I would never do that.
Exactly. I think ulting like is dumb. Like if you're ult, I can understand maybe making like a farming ult, but I think there needs to be that barrier of entry to get flying again, to get like riding again on it. I think you need that barrier of entry to not overinflate the market with farming ults.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think there's a very good balance in Classic for ults, whereas in, I don't know, account-wide mounts and pets is dumb. Even then, I think pets are dumb too. I don't like what they did with pets. I know you like pets. Like pets are something you'd like. I think pets are dumb. I think mounts are cooler, and I think mounts should have stayed as rare as they were.
Like, interact with mounts though.
You ride them.
You ride them.
They're a tool.
Exactly, they're a tool.
They're a tool. Count-wide mounts and pets. I feel like that's all I have to say about mounts and pets. Archaeology as a secondary profession, I don't think it should. If you go the route of Classic Plus, I don't think archaeology should be included. I think archaeology, firstly, is like a really boring profession, but on top of that, archaeology hasn't been updated since Legion, which I think is
like
2016.
You or
no, archaeology's boring. Like archaeology is flat out boring. And on top of that, like I said, it hasn't been updated since 2016. Like, that was Legion, I'm pretty sure. Like, even the devs don't care about archaeology. And I know, like, I'll constantly say the devs have no fucking clue what they're doing, but I think that's one thing where it's like no one cares about archaeology. Like, it's a useless profession. Changes to the PvP arenas. So I think removal of 5v5 is fine. Like, no one plays 5v5. I think 3v3s are just fine as it is. Changes to professions. I think the route that you have to take in Classic, where you need to choose like a specialization in like leatherworking, blacksmithing, or tailoring, where you need to choose if you want to make weapons or armor, I think it made you feel more special, and it made you feel more important in your like guild. If you chose to be the weaponsmith and your buddy chose to be the armor smith, you could work together on getting all of the recipes and materials you would necessarily need to get through late game crafting. Whereas the changes to professions that they put forward in Cataclysm was more of like the homogenizing of like professions and making them less interesting and engaging or important. Like I think that feeling in Classic where you feel really fucking cool because you crafted your homie this big fucking war axe, and you know your homie is going to use that for the rest of the fucking expansion because it's his BIS. That is a good feeling.
BIS?
Best in slot. That feeling of gratification for the time and effort you put into a profession paying off by making other people happy and it making you a decent amount of gold is a good feeling. And I think Cataclysm killed that as well. Are you picking up on a theme?
Very.
Collection user interface. So I hate the collection like feeling of retail. I engage in collecting. I think collecting transmog can be fun for a time, but I hate the yucky. It's yucky. The whole like mindset of I need one of every piece of armor, and I need every fucking mount in the game, and I need every pet, etc. Like, it's yucky.
Do you want mounts though?
Yes, I think mounts are cool, but I think collecting all of the mounts is dumb. Like, if you ask me, I think one of the coolest things in Classic versus Retail is that your mounts used to take up bag space in Classic, whereas even in I think it's Wrath is where they changed it. In Wrath, they made it so you had a separate slot for your mounts, and then after that, it was added to this collection and user interface where it didn't take any bag space. I think that mindset of like, oh, I can only have so many mounts because I need to hold on to them in my bank or in my pocket was cool. You know, I think it gave you that trade-off of like, okay, I really want this mount, but I'm gonna have to make some like sacrifice here. I'm gonna need to have less like mats in my bank. I'm gonna need to have less stuff on my person at all times. You could say I'm dumb for thinking that, but I think it was a genuine trade-off that you had to think about. Whereas Cataclysm came around and you could just grab everything you wanted. Dungeon Journal. I think Dungeon Journal is an okay addition. I think it's useful to people like you, where you can read about the mechanics and the story of the dungeon without like feeling lost going into it. I don't think every dungeon necessarily.
You didn't mean that in a rude way.
No, not meant in a rude way. You just don't. You're not the type that would like go look up a YouTube video about mechanics.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think that's insulting. I think that's quite the opposite of insulting. But yeah. I think the Dungeon Journal is a good tool, and I think if the Dungeon Journal is used properly in combination with boss design, like you're not gonna have that terrible fucking feeling of just like gross, yucky bosses that are like too hard for normal people. Dungeon Journal, Guild Advancement System, Guild Leveling Achievements and Rewards. I think this was cool. I think giving guilds an incentive to do stuff together and to do it more than once is cool. I think it's a cool idea to give incentives to guilds. I don't remember exactly what the rewards were back in Cataclysm, but in general, I think it's a good idea to reward people for playing with their guilds. Level cap increase. This is like unavoidable. Every expansion is going to come with a level cap. I don't think there's anything to say about it. It just goes from 80 to 85. I will say it's kind of cool that for Cataclysm they chose to only do 5 levels instead of 10. Definitely makes the changes to like the power more manageable. There's a lot of QOL that's cringe. There's a lot of QOL that's kind of cringe. Quality of life. So, like, AoE looting, I think, like, this sounds like splitting hairs. Quality of looting, AoE looting is fine. Like, it's not, like, the end of the fucking world if we get it, but I think, again, it's that kind of feeling of streamlining the gameplay, whereas WoW is, like classic WoW is, like, a slow game, you know? It's you know, I don't know how to word this better than I think it. But I think it's silly to add AoE looting when we know that what we're trying to avoid by playing Classic is we are trying to avoid playing a streamlined, brain-dead version of the game. Improve flight paths. Those are fine. Some of the flight paths are really dumb in Classic. Spell alerts for procs. They're fine. It's not the end of the world if we get them. Ammunition no longer takes a bag space. I always thought this was kind of cool. I'm pretty sure even New World has this, where your ammo for your weapons like needs a slot in your bag. Where, like, I think that's cool. I think you're kind of playing into like the class fantasy of a hunter, where like, you know, maybe you're like you're fletched, like maybe you took engineering so you can make a bunch of bullets for your gun. Like, I think that interplay between, you know, engineering and hunting is very much there. Whereas it stops being a thing after Kata. Questing and leveling changes. This is I'm gonna have a meltdown. I hate the questing changes that were included in Cataclysm. They ruined so many cool quest lines. They ruined so many cool leveling zones because Deathwing threw a fit. Is like the trailer for Cataclysm. I feel like it explains a little bit better just how much Deathwing did to the world than I can.
How did this turn into a WoW history lesson?
It happens.
Are you allowed to show this?
I don't know. I didn't think about that. We'll see. It's a trailer. I don't feel like it's the end of the world. And this is the beginning of the fucking end of all the leveling zones I love. So I said he threw a fit. He threw a fucking fit. The Barrens, gone. Fucking destroyed. One of the coolest leveling zones. Bye. 1,000 Needles, fucking destroyed. Another amazing leveling zone. Flooded.
Wait, I don't understand. So when you're playing the game...
When you're playing the game, it's after Deathwing destroys all these areas.
Well, if I were to start playing the game, would you have to get to that quest or something?
No, it's permanent. So in pre-Cataclysm, so WoW Classic, Wrath of the Lich King, it's before the world has been touched by this cunt. If you were to go play... What?
I don't understand. Like, and I see that this is just leading into your point, but why would you...
what are you doing there, Zub?
Destroy...
Why would you destroy leveling zones that people love?
Or that, like, okay, so you're saying I can't now go play with it.
I'm
Like,
pretty sure.
know,
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like
pretty
that's
sure you can't go back to it.
exclusivity.
Yeah, no, they permanently changed the world. Again, there's more clips throughout this trailer that show parts of the world that were destroyed by the Cataclysm event.
So what's going on here, Zub?
McKenna and I are talking about Cataclysm Classic.
It looks cool, though.
It looks cool, but I hate that this was a permanent change to the world.
What do you want them to do? Rebuild? Like, when that chick burned down the tree, like, what do you want them to do? Regrow the
don't
tree?
get me started. No, don't talk about the burning.
I'm just saying, like, what do you, like, obviously they wanted to make this big thing.
Yes. Clearly they
but
wanted to make
how
it a
do you
big
do
deal.
it? How do you do it and not...
Upset people? I think the biggest reason I have problems with like the Deathwing areas that have been destroyed is even 12. Give me a second. I need to look at the time frame before I actually.
Do you remember that like cinematic trailer? Was that the same one?
That was the cinematic trailer for Cataclysm. Yeah. WoW Cata
I think I
release
remember
date.
the beginning of that trailer.
So that came out in 2010. It is 2022. It has been 12 years, and so many of the places that have been destroyed by Deathwing are still on fire. I don't know if it's because I the whole time I played retail, all the Cataclysm stuff was still there. I hate the Cataclysm World Remake. It is fucking awful. It makes me so mad. They destroyed so many cool zones, and they never rebuilt. They never changed it. It just was still fucking ugly.
I don't have another choice.
Okay. So the next thing on the list is gonna give me a mental fucking breakdown.
Raid Finder.
Raid Finder.
Again, for people like me.
For people like you, sure. But people like you should get adopted by someone that's in a guild, so you just go in someone else's raid.
Thing.
Raid Finder bad. Rated battleground system, not a problem at all. Rated BGs are fine. It makes battlegrounds a little bit more engaging for those that really want to grind them. Reforging allows the conversion of an item's secondary stat into another secondary stat. I think this is fine. I think it's okay to give people a chance to reroll their gear for better shit. Talent system changes. So talent system changes are always going to be a thing whenever you add an expansion to WoW. I think the talent systems were fine, except for the fact that they homogenized abilities and, you know, brought forward that problem of like linking together, like giving classes things that they didn't necessarily need because other classes already had them. It's that problem of homogenizing every class so it can do everything. This is where it started. The talent system changes in Cataclysm. That was the beginning of it. And even if it's just the beginning, it's still a problem. Tol Barad, an outdoor PvP zone where players battle for control of the island. Again, it's a zone, it's cool. I'm not going to cry about it. Transmog, fucking awful. I never want to see Transmog in Classic. Okay. The main problem I have with transmogrification is because it cheapens every piece of gear that you see. It doesn't matter how cool it looks anymore because it could be from anywhere. I think you should have to wear the gear that you're wearing. I don't think you should be able to make it look like something else because that directly, like, you're not going to see people, like, leveling looking ugly. And I think one of the coolest feelings in WoW is looking fucking ugly until you get your full rating set done. Or even dungeon grinding sets. I think it's a really cool way to just look at someone and gauge where they are in the expansion. Unified rate and loot lockouts. I think this is another kind of lame thing. I think you should get rewarded better for engaging in a 25-man raid versus a 10-man raid. My two picks for what they do to Classic is either they proceed down the route of making Classic Plus, so not Cataclysm, but content that was cut from the 3 Classic expansions that was never added, right? And do it in the same style that it would have been done at the time that it would have been released, or Season of Mastery stuff. Whereas, like, I understand Season of Mastery isn't everyone's pick, and I think if they wanted to do Season of Mastery, the only way to do it well would be to increase leveling speed and make it more stomachable for normal fucking human beings. But those are the two picks, either Classic Plus or Season of Mastery. I don't think there's any universe where I actually want to play Cataclysm.
Was Classic Plus even an option?
Nope. Were you just sitting there listening to me, like, exposit to McKenna about WoW? Huh. I wonder what I've done. I really do. It's almost like... Where is it? It's almost like I did this when I re-downloaded Classic to play again. I removed all the shit on the top bar, and I uninstalled retail, because I figured out every time I start investing time into retail, I quit Classic. I stop enjoying Classic, because I'm investing so much time into the shitty systems that are in retail. I fucked up, you know? It's on me that I fucked up, but now I finally figured out why I fucked up, you know?